Donald Trump, born June 14, 1946. Benjamin Netanyahu, born October 21st, 1949. Both of these men, folks, are under criminal obstruction charges. And they both were born during a blood moon, known to many as a total lunar eclipse. Boom! Shakalaka. Now, how is it that you can encourage peace when on August 24, 2018, the Trump administration cut more than $200 million in bilateral aid to the Palestinians for projects in the West Bank and Gaza? Yet, Trump brags about that he didn't start any wars. Oh, really? No one has considered that the October 7th Hamas attack was an outcry for hunger. Not only that, to build more schools and hospitals. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, a Zionist Jew, was the initiator of the Abraham Accords, and he was not supposed to receive a secret clearance. After an FBI background check, his application for a top-secret clearance was rejected. It was by two career White House security specialists. They had concerns about his foreign influence, but their supervisor overruled the recommendation and approved the clearance. Then on September 15, 2020, the United Arab Emirates and Israel signed a full peace treaty. The Bahrain-Israel agreement is a, quote, a declaration of peace in which both sides commit to establishing full diplomatic relations. Yet, the agreements did not address the conflict between the Israelis and the Palestinians. While the UAE, Bahrain, and other Arab countries support the Palestinians, the Trump administration persuaded the two countries not to let that conflict keep them from having normal relations with Israel. On this map, you can see in 1979, Egypt signed a peace agreement with Israel. Then, Jordan in 1994. Then in 2020, Morocco, Bahrain, and the UAE normalized relations. Then, on June 25, 2020, Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, said he intends to annex 30% of the West Bank. Now, folks, everyone should know why Hamas attacked. Now, Trump snatched $200 million, and then Net planned to snatch the West Bank. Now you see, as of today, why there's so much chaos. Boom! Shakalaka. The American Israel Public Affairs Committee, also known as IAPAC, told members of Congress that it has no objection to them criticizing Netanyahu's occupation plans. Yet, the pro-Israel lobby vigorously continues to discourage any criticism of Israel. The Zionist Organization of America, also known as ZOA, strongly supports Israel applying control west of the Jordan River and Valley. For when they are saying peace and safety, then sudden destruction comes upon them as labor upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. 1 Thessalonians 5th chapter verse 3. According to the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, there are three types of Jews: the Ashkenazi, Sephardic, and Mizrahi. They state about 80% of modern Jews have Ashkenazi ancestry. So in conclusion, I hope you readers have noticed the source of this Ashkenazi ancestry. Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Now pucker them lips so I can hit you in the mouth with this. In Bible genealogy, Ashkenaz was the son of Gomer, and Gomer was the son of Japheth, and there's no mention of Sephardic and Mizrahi in the Bible, period. Ashkenazis are not the real Jews. They are just a bunch of Russians, Germans, and Polacks, and liars. Boom! Shakalaka. This identification of Sephardic and Mizrahi ancestry are designed ethnic barriers against people of color in order to set in question one's Jewishness. Yet, today Israel is attempting to rid of the real Jews. I'm speaking of King Solomon's and Queen of Sheba's children, known as Ethiopians and Eritreans, telling them to go back to dark Africa. Really? Really? Now, follow me as I settle this fear tactic that's been going on in this nation with all of these shouts of anti-Semitic, especially when these folks are the offspring of Japheth and not Shem. The word anti-Semitism is a term used to categorize anybody that is insensitive or discriminates against the so-called Jews. Zionist organizations are dependent upon the theme of, and I quote, anti-Semitism as a political weapon. They have a starting point that applies to the Arabs in spite of the fact that Arabs constitute the majority of the Semitic peoples, from Yoktan, the great-great-grandson of Shem. Yoktan created the Arab language and had 13 sons that are known as the tribes of Arabia. The Zionists also controlled American news media to make sure that only their side of the story is heard, and they terrorize anyone who speaks out against them. In addition, they have stressed the definition of anti-Semitism to include any criticism of Israel and Israeli policy. In 1973, Lord have mercy, Saudi Arabia placed an embargo on the U.S. in the afternoon of 19th October. Fayezo was in his office when he learned about the United States sending $2.2 billion of weapons to Israel. Now, folks, I was over there for 59 days out at sea on the USS Hancock, and boy, it was rough. We was running out of cigarettes and food and everything else. It was crazy. Fayezo told Henry Kissinger, and I'll quote, "The United States used to stand up against aggression. You did that in World War II and in 1956 during the Suez War. If the United States had done the same after 1967, we would have not witnessed this deterioration." Before the Jewish state was established, there existed nothing to harm good relations between Arabs and Jews. There were many Jews in Arab countries. When the Jews were persecuted in Spain, Arabs protected them. When the Romans drove the Jews out, Arabs protected them. At Yalta, it was Stalin who said there had to be a Jewish state. Now, Israel is advancing communist objectives. Among those of the Jewish faith, there are those who embrace Zionism. Most of the immigration to Israel is from the Soviet Union. They want to establish a communist base right in the Middle East, and now all over the world. The Jews are putting themselves into positions of authority. Folks, on February 4th through the 11th, 1945, at Yalta Conference, President Roosevelt told Stalin that he was a Zionist and asked if Stalin was one. Stalin replied that he was one in principle, but he recognized the difficulty.
Which you brought, and we have here a silver coin and a gold coin.
Yeah.
And the silver coin says across the top, Cyrus, Balfour, Trump Declaration, 1917-2017. Mm-hmm. And Billy, as I live and breathe, there is a picture of the Emperor Cyrus.
Yeah.
And placed against him is a profile of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And it says, Cyrus Balfour Trump Declaration. Now, the gold coin has the very same thing. It has the Emperor Cyrus, Donald Trump. It has the Temple Menorah. On the backside, it has a picture of the third temple, the rebuilt temple. So does this other coin. And again, when you mint a coin like this, it means something. Let's talk about what it really means in terms of what the Jews are thinking right now.
Well, the Jewish people, again, and this is wild, Gary, because, a lot of us would admit that it wasn't by chance that President Trump got into office and that there was a spiritual battle going on, literally, and I would agree with that. But the Jewish people even more so believe that, and this is their words, again, not mine, they truly believe that our president, President Donald Trump, was put there by the hand of God. Not only we see that with his support of Israel and, again, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, in effect, again, acknowledging Jerusalem as their capital. They are excited about that, believe you me. He's also one of the biggest supporters of Israel, frankly, in a long time, certainly from the previous administration, which was the Obama administration was the most anti-Israel, anti-Christian administration in the history of the United States.
Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? The man said Obama administration was the most anti-Israel, anti-Christian administration in the history of the United States. Psalm 75, 5-7. Lift not your horn on high. Speak not with a stiff neck. For promotion comes neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south. But God is the judge. He puts down one and sets up another. Every president was placed in that White House by God. And then once they were seated, Proverbs 21:1, the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turns it whithersoever he will. Folks, God has turned and continues to turn the heart of every king, queen, prime minister, chancellor, and president on the whole entire earth. Boom! Shakalaka. You call yourself a Christian. Really? I got that woke for you. Come on. I got that woke for you. Did we just read Proverbs 21:1? Huh? Got that woke for you. Yeah. You need to shut that down, bruh. But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. As 1 Samuel 16 chapter verse 14. Just as God gave Saul an evil spirit, he gave Trump one. So now watch me as I walk the dog. On September 13, 2016, the United States finalized a $38 billion package of military aid for Israel over the next 10 years, the largest of its kind ever. Susan Rice, President Obama's national security advisor, handled the negotiations. The package provided for missile defense systems that defend against rockets fired by Hezbollah and Hamas. It was finalized on September 14th, 2016. The two sides agreed not to seek additional funds from Congress over the next 10 years unless both agree, such as in a case of a war, and that will be 2026. President Obama told Israeli President Netanyahu that continued settlement construction in the West Bank and East Jerusalem was a threat to peace with the Palestinians. The primary reason for Obama's meeting with Netanyahu because he was highly concerned about continued Israeli settlement building in East Jerusalem and the West Bank territory that the Palestinians have earmarked for any future state. The Christian evangelicals and the Republican Party continue to push the lie that Obama had done nothing for Israel, a total of $62 billion in his 8 years. The man has been gone from the White House nearly 8 years and y'all still talking. So don't impress upon me because you have a couple of Bojangles among you. Yeah, I said it, and I ain't that one. Judge not, that you be not judged. For with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the measure you use it, will be measured again for you. And why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not consider the plank that is in your own eye? Boom! Shakalaka! Do not let anyone deceive you in any way. For that day will not come unless the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of destruction. And I repeat, the son of destruction.
I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it.
This logo is the Rafael Advanced Defense Systems. It is an Israeli defense technology company. It was founded in 1948, the year of the foundation of the country, which does not sit well with me, because it is Israel's national defense laboratory for the development of weapons and military technology within its Israeli Ministry of Defense. The headquarters is in Haifa, Israel. Rafael is a Hebrew acronym meaning authority for the development of armaments. Armaments are weapons, folks. Rafa in Hebrew means cure, cause to heal, repair thoroughly, make whole. El in Hebrew means God. Now, folks, since weapons kill, so are they saying they are operating for the God of this world, which is Satan, to fix things in order to wipe out the people that are in Christ? Yeah, holla back. According to Bloomberg on Wall Street, the Rafael Advanced Defense Systems develops and produces weapons, military, and defense technologies for the Israel Defense Forces, known as the IDF, and for export abroad, and supplies a wide range of defense systems for air, land, sea, and space applications. All current projects are classified. The company makes air defense systems, air-to-air missiles, air-to-surface missiles, precision-guided missiles, and remote-controlled weapon stations. On February 28, 2022, the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency granted facility clearance to Rafael Systems Global Sustainment, an American subsidiary of Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, to work on confidential programs without collaborating with U.S. firms, according to the company president and CEO Joseph Anderson. As a veteran of naval intelligence and a former employee of Department of Defense for 15 years, that is the most disgusting thing I have heard up to date. Boom! Shakalaka. They also are currently the one and only U.S.-based arm of the Israeli defense firm to receive the clearance. The process to gain the clearance began in April 2020 during the Trump administration, but was delayed due to COVID-19.
9/11 is we didn't have a strategy, we didn't have bipartisan agreement, we didn't have American understanding of it, and we had instead a policy coup in this country. A coup. A policy coup. Some hard-nosed people took over the direction of American policy, and they never bothered to inform the rest of us. I went through the Pentagon 10 days after 9/11. I couldn't stay away from Mother Army. I went back there to see Don Rumsfeld. I'd worked for him as a White House fellow in the 1970s. All this is in the book. And I said, am I doing okay on CNN? He said, yeah, fine. He said, I'm thinking about it. He says, I read your book. And he said, this is a book that talks about the Kosovo campaign. And he said, I just want to tell you, he said, nobody's going to tell us where or when we can bomb. Nobody. He said, I'm thinking of calling this a floating coalition. What do you think about that? I said, well, sir, thanks for reading my book. And he said, thanks, that's all the time I've got. Really. And I went downstairs, I was leaving the Pentagon, and an officer from the Joint Staff called me into his office and said, I want you to know, he said, sir, we're going to attack Iraq. And I said, why? He said, we don't know. he said, I said, well, did they tie Saddam to 9/11? He said, no. He said, but I guess they don't know what to do about terrorism, and so they think, but they can attack states, and they want to look strong, and so I guess they think if they take down a state, it will intimidate the terrorists. And you know, it's like that old saying, he said, if the only tool you have is a hammer, then every problem has to be a nail. Well, I walked out of there pretty upset. And then we attacked Afghanistan. I was pretty happy about that. We should have. And then I came back to the Pentagon about 6 weeks later. I saw the same officer. I said, why haven't we attacked Iraq? We still going to attack Iraq? He said, oh, sir. He says, it's worse than that. He said, he pulled up a piece of paper off his desk. He said, I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense's office. It says we're going to attack and destroy the governments in 7 countries in 5 years. We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. I said, 7 countries in 5 years. I said, is that a classified memo? He said, yes, sir. I said, well, don't show it to me. He was about to show it to me. He said, because I want to talk about it. And I sat on this information for a long time, for about 6 or 8 months. I was so stunned by this, I couldn't begin to talk about it. And I couldn't believe it would really be true, but that's actually what happened. These people took control of the policy in the United States. And I realized then, it came back to me, a 1991 meeting I had with Paul Wolfowitz. You know, in 2001 he was Deputy Secretary of Defense, but in 1991 he was the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. It's the number 3 position in the Pentagon. And I had gone to see him when I was a 1-star general. I was commanding the National Training Center. I had met him one time. He said, if you ever get to Washington, come look me up. They always say that. Well, I was there in Washington. It was a Friday afternoon. I'd visited Colin Powell. He'd given me 5 minutes of his precious time and sent me on my way, and I was bored in the Pentagon, and I thought, I'll just go, who can I see? I think I'll see Wolfowitz. So I called, and up there, he was available. Scooter Libby came to the door. I met Scooter for the first time, and he brought me in, and I said to Paul, I said, and this is 1991, I said, Mr. Secretary, you must be pretty happy with the performance of the troops in Desert Storm. And he said, well, yeah, he said, but not really. He said, because the truth is we should have gotten rid of Saddam Hussein, and we didn't. And this was just after the Shia uprising in March of 91, which we had provoked, and then we kept our troops on the sidelines and didn't intervene. And he said, but one thing we did learn, he said, we learned that we can use our military in the region, in the Middle East, and the Soviets won't stop us. He said, and we've got about 5 or 10 years to clean up those old Soviet client regimes, Syria, Iran, Iraq, before the next great superpower comes on to challenge us. And it was like, you know, I'm coming out of the Mojave Desert. I've been training troops. I haven't been thinking geostrategy for some time. And suddenly a guy just sort of shoves this nugget at you. Well, you remember it. It was a pretty stunning thing. You mean the purpose of the military is to start wars and change governments? It's not to sort of deter conflict? We're going to invade countries? And I you know, my mind was spinning. And I put that aside. It was like a nugget that you hold on to. This country was taken over by a group of people with a policy coup. Wolfowitz and Cheney and Rumsfeld, and you could name a half dozen other collaborators from the Project for a New American Century. They wanted us to destabilize the Middle East, turn it upside down, make it under our control. It went back to those comments in 1991. Now, did anybody ever tell you that? Was there a national dialogue on this? Did senators and congressmen stand up and denounce this plan? Was there a full-fledged American debate on it? Absolutely not. And there still isn't. And that's why we're failing in Iraq. Because Iran and Syria know about the plan. All you have to do is read the Weekly Standard and listen to Bill Kristol, and he blabbermouths it all over the world. Richard Pearl the same way. They could hardly wait to finish Iraq so they could move into Syria. It was like a laydown. Oh, our legions are going to go in there. This wasn't what the American people voted George Bush into office. Well, they didn't actually vote him into office, but it wasn't what many of the people who... It wasn't what he campaigned on. He campaigned on a humble foreign policy, the most arrogant foreign policy in American history. He campaigned on no peacekeeping, no nation building, and here he is with Afghanistan and Iraq. It's astonishing. So the root of the problem is not how many troops are in Iraq. Please believe me. Don't be mad, if you're a Democrat, at your Democratic congressman because they can't reduce the troops and frustrate the president. That's not the issue. And if you're a Republican, don't be mad at the Democrats because they're fussing with the troops. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you're an American, you ought to be concerned about the strategy of the United States in this region. What is our aim? What is our purpose? Why are we there? Why are Americans dying in this region? That is the issue.
The name Israel is mentioned in the Bible 2,319 times, and not once did it say that the land of Israel is the apple of God's eye. The name Jerusalem is mentioned 767 times, and it is stated once that Jerusalem is the apple of God's eye. Boom! Shakalaka. Folks, you better prepare to get in that number, because there's going to come a time when Jesus will come with all of his saints and knock Satan clean out of his pedestal at the Temple Mount. Okay, folks, let's go to Matthew 24th chapter, verse 3. We'll drop down to 7 to 8. And as he, Jesus, sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of your coming and of the end of the world? For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be starvations and viruses and earthquakes in several places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Now, folks, let us take a look at the COVID-19 virus and add the letters using Roman numerals. The last time Israel was an independent nation was in 606 BC. C is 100. O is 0. V is 5. I is 1. D is 500. It adds up to 606 BC. So, okay, we're going to add 19. 606 plus 19 equals 625. Let's do a numerology on 625. 6 plus 2 equals 8 plus 5 equals 13. 13, folks. 13. On the right seal of the U.S. dollar above the eagle are 13 stars that form the shape of the hexagram. The hexagram was brought to the Hebrew people by King Solomon when he got involved in witchcraft and idolatry after his marriage to Pharaoh's daughter. He used the symbol as a magical signet to control demon spirits. He also built altars for satanic worship to idols of Ashtoreth and Baal and Moloch. The worship included sexual orgies, and there were sacrifices with children that were burned in a fiery furnace, and they used the Freemasonry to create the nation of Israel. As you can see here, I fashioned the star around the 13 stars on the dollar. It has 6 points, 6 sides, and 6 triangles. 666. Mark of the beast, folks. What you see over the left seal of the dollar is the seal of Solomon, which is, I say again, is the representation of satanic worship. The letters at 5 points spells the name Mason. M-A-S-O-N. Mason. I fashioned this star over the pyramid. It has 6 points, 6 sides, 6 triangles. 666, mark of the beast, folks. Now check out the 20, 10, 50, and the 100. The first issue of this currency was 1996, but the towers didn't come down until 2001. Take a good look. Take your time. It's going to make you sick. Okay, folks, let's wind it up. Let's wind it up. And let's take notice of the timeline of the pandemics. We're going to start on January 3rd, 1916. The Sykes-Picot Agreement was created and finalized on May 16, 1916. It was a secret agreement that created the modern Middle East. This was made during World War I between Great Britain, France, Italy, and Russia. The colored area was under control of the Ottoman Empire, and those 4 countries that I just mentioned divvied up before the war. The Ottomans controlled Jerusalem for 400 years, from 1516 until 1917. Moreover, there were 8 crusades between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and ended by World War I by British General Edmund Allenby on December 11, 1917. The agreement assigned to Britain control of areas comprising the coastal strip between the Mediterranean Sea and the River Jordan, southern Iraq, and in an additional small area that included the ports of Haifa and Acre to allow access to the Mediterranean. France got control of southeastern Turkey, northern Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon. Russia got Istanbul, the Turkish Straits, and Armenia. The United States entered into World War I as an ally with Britain, France, and Russia on April 6, 1917, because Germany was destroying our merchant ships. The Balfour Declaration was a November 2, 1917 letter from British Foreign Secretary Arthur James Balfour to Lord Rothschild that was announced that the British support of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. 100 years later, on December 6, 2017, President Trump formally recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and stated that the American embassy would be moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. On March 11, 1918, the Spanish flu was first identified at a military base at Fort Riley in Kansas. It killed an estimated 50 million people worldwide, including an estimated 670,000 people in the United States. 100 years later, on April 4th, 2018, National Institution of Health stated new coronaviruses emerges from bats in China, devastates young swine identified in the same region from same bats as SARS coronavirus. The White House was warned of risky coronavirus experiments in a Wuhan lab, but no one listened. The U.S. Embassy opened at its Jerusalem location on May 14, 2018, the 70th anniversary of the creation of the modern state of Israel. On May 18, 2018, United States Senator Elizabeth Warren and Patty Murray sent a letter to National Security Advisor John Bolton, expressing concern over reports that the top White House official responsible for responding to global health crisis has left the Trump administration, and a global health team he oversaw has been disbanded. The senators noted Rear Admiral Timothy Zimmer's departure follows Bolton's efforts to reorganize the National Security Council. On the same day, May 18, 2018, a senator from Ohio, Sherrod Brown, here's a letter. He said, "Dear President Trump, I urge you to act quickly to designate senior-level National Security Council personnel to focus on global health security while maintaining funding for critical global health security initiatives. I am concerned about Rear Admiral Timothy Zemer's departure from the NSC, elimination of this Global Health Security Office, and reassignment of the office team members. There needs to be one in place while backing up a capable team who can coordinate across agencies to ensure that we have the resources necessary to guard against and respond to any outbreak that threatens the United States. In 2009, President Obama initiated PREDICT, which enabled global surveillance for pathogens that can spill over from animal hosts to people by building capacities to detect and discover viruses of pandemic potential. The project is a part of the United States International Development's Emerging Pandemic Threats Program and was led by the UC Davis One Health Institution. They were working with partners in over 30 countries, folks. The project investigated the behaviors, practices, and ecological and biological factors driving disease emergence, transmissions, and spread using the One Health approach. The COVID-19 did not sneak over here, nor did China use it as a biological weapon. Donald J. Trump disbanded the agency. Boom! Shakalaka. By the summer of 1919, the flu pandemic came to an end, as those that were infected either died or developed immunity. A vaccine was never successful, and the most basic and fundamental features of influenza were still unexplained, according to the National Center for Biotechnology Center. On December 31st, 2019, Wuhan Municipal Health Commission in China reported a cluster of cases of pneumonia in Wuhan, Hubei province. A novel coronavirus was eventually identified. On February 6, 2020, in San Jose, California, a tissue sampling from a woman who died revealed that she was probably the first known person in the United States whose death was linked to the coronavirus, a strong sign that the virus may have been circulating in that part of Northern California in January.